Today we're going to talk about the traps that can derail writers and how to deal with those distractions or resistance issues that inevitably come up.
You have a story to tell, but you don't know where to start. Let me show you how to free your story. I teach you how to write and how to dig deep in your soul to release your story and make a difference in the world.
Welcome to the Julia Monte channel. If we're just meeting, I am Julia Monte. I'm a women's fiction author, and I'm also here on Fridays to give you some writing tips. So again, today we're going to talk about the distractions or the 10 things that sometimes can tend to derail us from our writing. All right, that first trap is procrastination. So if you tend to procrastinate, you'd rather, go and organize your closet or organize your desk or do something else other than write. It's not really that you'd rather do that. You're just procrastinating, right? You're just putting off writing because you're many reasons. Maybe you've reached a part that's kind of hard to write, or you have a hard time getting going for some reason and you're putting off getting your work done. Ways to avoid that, or ways to, kind of deal with that procrastination is always have that planner, set a schedule where you're going to write during that time and sit there, whether you're writing or not, write something, even if it's not good. You can do it by, people sometimes will do word count, so they want to write a certain amount of time. If you're limited by time, then you're going to do it by time, right? I'm going to sit here for an hour and write during my writing time. I'm not going to do anything else. I'm not going to organize my closet. I'm not going to cook. I'm not going to clean. I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to sit here and get my writing done. So that helps to kind of avoid procrastination a little bit, because you're forcing yourself to sit there and do it anyways. And so you might as well. Your brain just says, all right, well, I'm going to be here anyways. I'm going to write something, even if it's not great. Okay, the other kind of trap that sometimes writers get into is that they need the perfect place to write. So they have to have that perfect desk, they have to have all their markers, and they have to have the candles lit, and they have to have all these things to have that wonderful space to write. Now, those things are great, and it is nice to have that, and I do recommend having a writer's space. However, don't use it as an excuse not to write. If you don't have that, right? If all you have is your kitchen table, or if all you have is just a little corner of a room. I think I've mentioned before, when I first started writing, all I had was a closet. I had sharing a room with my younger brother, living with my parents, going to college, and the only peace and quiet that I could find was inside of a closet. So I moved all my clothes out of the way. I got two giant bricks and put a piece of wood, and that was like my desk in there, and I just sat in there and I put a light, and that's where I had some peace and quiet and write. And this was pre-computers, okay? So I didn't have a computer in there and technology or anything. I just sat there with a notebook and wrote. That was a place to kind of sit and think and write. So if you go back into history, some of the, most famous writers, Hemingway, he he had a notebook with him all the time, so he wrote wherever he could. Kurt Vonnegut also wrote in war zones. So, we write wherever we can. If you're going to be a writer, you have to get used to being able to write. So don't use like your space as an excuse why you can't write, even if it's not ideal. Just make it work. Write in your car, write wherever you can. The other writer trap is thinking that you have to be perfect, that your book has to be perfect, your story has to be perfect. Let me tell you right now, there is no perfect story. There is no perfection. Your goal shouldn't be to have a perfect book or have a perfect story. It should be to have a really, really good story. It should be to have a story that captures a reader's interest and tells a good story. It doesn't have to be perfect. The grammar doesn't have to be perfect. The story doesn't have to be the most perfectly plotted story. There may be some holes that you will fix later. There's a thing called revision that we all have to do, and that's when we can perfect it. But even through multiple revisions, you may never feel like your story is perfect. And it probably isn't. But that's okay. And you have to get used to that. You have to get used to, in fact, the way to kind of get over this perfect, being perfect is give yourself a deadline. Say, this is when the book is going to be finished, no matter where it's at. I'm going to work really, really hard to make it as good as I can by that date. But once that date comes, it has to be finished. And it's a good habit to get into, because if you do work with professional publishers at some point, that's what they're going to do. They're going to give you a deadline, and you have to be able to produce your book, your story, by that deadline. Not that they can't push it every once in a while. If something happens, you have an emergency and you need more time, they will do, they will help you and give you a little bit of extra time, but they don't like to, because your book is, one book in the production line, and if you're late, it's going to push other books. They're going to have to figure out how to get other books in that slot, and it's going to mess everything up for other books. It's going to mess things up for copy editors and everybody else who needs to do something, marketing people, cover designers, everybody who needs your book there when it's due. So just get used to that. Don't worry about being perfect. Just worry about writing a good story and getting it done in a reasonable time, in a deadline that sounds reasonable. So if you are a slower writer, give yourself a longer deadline. If you're a quicker, writer, then of course your deadline could be moved up. And if you're planning to write like 3 books a year, then you need to have those deadlines marked, right? For so that you can get 3 books done per year. So it really depends on you and your goal. But once you set the deadline, you want to stick to it, and not worry about getting a perfect book. Okay, another trap. Netflix, TV, may be your trap. It may not be your trap. It tends to not really be my trap. I'm not a huge heavy TV watcher, but there are some times where I'm just like, oh, I should work on Friday night, but I'm really tired from the week and I'm just gonna sit here and watch a movie. So it happens to all of us, as long as it doesn't happen all the time. Okay, and there's also value, I think, for writers, especially fiction authors, in watching other movies and watching other stories, because it helps with ideas, it helps with watching the pacing, it helps with a lot of things. So it's not terrible, but if you're doing that instead of writing, then it's not good, right? So you want to make sure that you're not using, things like TV and Netflix as a procrastination method or as a way to not do your writing. Another similar derailment or something that can interfere with your writing is social media. Now, you want to be on social media because it is a great promotional part of being a writer, communicating with the writers, with other professionals in the publishing world, editors, and readers, of course. So it is important, and you do want to spend some time on social media, but if you're spending too much time on social media, or you're using it as a distraction, again, to not do your writing, like you're getting to a difficult scene and you're like, oh, well, let me check my feed, right? I do that sometimes. Not good, because what it does is it really does distract you, right? It takes your mind away from your work, wastes the time that you could be using writing to really just kind of skim things that really aren't important. So set a schedule for when you're going to do social media, or when you're going to have breaks that you can go in there, because again, it is important. If you have a really hard time with it, there are some programs. I think, let's see, one's called Cold Turkey, and another one is called, I think, Serene. And they will shut down certain websites that you don't want to go to, or the internet as a whole, if you don't want to get on the internet at all. So if that helps you, then do it. It just shuts it down for the time that you're writing, and then it brings it back up. I don't like that. I don't want to give anything that kind of control. I'll just not go on social media, or tell myself not to do it, and I'm good at not doing that. But if you're tempted and you need that, then use some of these apps that will help you kind of stay off. One of the things you'd have to do, maybe if you need to do some research or something as you're writing, which I don't really recommend. You want to do the research before, but sometimes you do have to just jump on and let me check something real quick. And that does help me sometimes if I'm looking for something, or I'm looking for a street name, or is there a store on such and such, in such and such city that I'm writing about. I'll do a quick Google search, find that out, and then go back to my story. It doesn't really distract me, it just helps me keep moving forward. But you can do that ahead of time if you want to use some of these apps, is what I'm saying. Otherwise, just tell yourself you're not going on social media while you're writing, and then stick to that. Okay, another thing that can really interfere, I think, with writing, it tends to mentally interfere with my writing, is if there's too much clutter, there's too much mess. I don't like it. My desk tends to get kind of messy, and it's not good. It really interferes with your writing and your thinking process. You have stuff everywhere, right? You have pens, you have all kinds of stuff. Your room gets messy, or if you're in your bedroom, maybe your bed's unmade, and it does cause distractions. So the best thing to do, I think, is just to clean up right before or at the end of your workday. So if you're done, put things away, put your pens away, clean it up, leave it nice, so that when you return to writing, then it's all that clutter is gone. It's worth it, I think, just to kind of have that open space. It helps clear your mind, helps you write better. All right, something else that can tend to pull us away from our writing is obligations that we have to others. So, we all have family members, we all have friends and things that maybe we need to do work, right? Our day job that causes us to get distracted or pulls us away from our writing. So try to minimize that as much as possible. So tell family, tell friends that you're not available during certain writing times, during your writing time, that you will get back to them later, or try to cut some of the things that are causing you to have, to kind of be stressed out about all the things that you need to do and all the obligations that you have. Try to get rid of some of those obligations if you can. And if you can't, just let people know that you're not going to be taking care of those things during the time that you're going to be writing. And if it's after work every night, then that's when you need to focus on writing, and then just, don't do the other things. If they don't get done, they don't get done. Have somebody else do them for you. Something else that tends to get in the way of us writing is negativity. So if you are constantly telling yourself that, you're not as good as other writers, or, you really don't, this is a crazy dream. What am I really doing spending my time writing? The story's not that good. I'm not that good of a writer. All that negativity does is just interfere with your writing and your creativity. So if you're doing any of that, just stop that now, and instead tell yourself positive things. This is going to be a great story. People are going to love this story. I'm going to do a great job. I'm working on. I'm putting a lot of effort into it. It's going to pay off. It's going to be wonderful. All of those positive messages, rather than telling yourself negative messages, think of yourself as your best friend, right? So what would you tell your best friend if your best friend was saying those things about their writing, right? That it's terrible, that they're not that good. You would probably not agree with them. You'd probably say, well, that's not true. You have this dream. That means you're probably good at it. You're probably you're working hard at it. You're probably getting better every day. So tell yourself those things that you would tell someone else. So try to get rid of the negativity. Don't let yourself be criticized by yourself. Okay, just stay positive and keep working on your story. The other thing that might derail you or might get in the way is if you compare yourself to other writers. So, it's really not fair to compare yourself to a published book that's finished, that's been edited and rewritten, and it's now not perfect, but in really good shape, right? So you don't want to compare yourself to published books, because those books have been, they have been edited. It's not the first draft that you're currently writing. So, or even comparing yourself to friends or somebody other, if you have other writing friends, don't do that. You're in your own, this is your own journey, and it's your own writing, and your writing is wherever it is. If it needs improvement, then it will improve over time. If it's, whatever you feel is not, is not as good, let's say, as what somebody else is doing, you're welcome to notice it and say, okay, well, let's see, I really need help with a certain part of it. Like, I always talk about, I'm not that great at description. Well, I know that, and so I know my first drafts are not going to be very descriptive, and they're not, there's going to be too many generalities that I need to go back and fix, and I need to be more specific, and I need to add more details. I already know that. So I definitely will not compare my first or even my second or my third draft to somebody else's who might be an amazing descriptive writer, because that's just, I know that's not my thing, right? I know it's not, I'm not great at that. And so why compare myself to somebody else and, bring in that negativity? I don't want to do that. So what, you want to do is just look at your own writing and what needs to be fixed and work on that. Don't compare yourself to other people, especially not published writers. Okay, something else that can kind of stop us sometimes, just not even derail our writing, just kind of stop our writing and our progress, is rejection. So if you have submitted your story to contests or to editors or to agents and you've gotten rejected, and you've gotten rejected multiple times, it hurts, and it tends to bring you down a little bit, and it kind of kills your confidence. So it is hard, and you're welcome to feel sad about it for a little while, but then kind of keep going. Know that everybody gets rejected. Published writers get rejected all the time. If you go to Amazon, take a look at the reviews. Not everybody has glowing reviews for published writers, even like your favorite writer, right? Even amazing writers. They get people who will complain and say that something's not good, or that they didn't like the story, or that this amazing author is not as good as they used to be. And that's very painful, especially if you are a published author who's been writing for many years and you think you're a pretty good writer, right? And you've proven that you're a pretty good writer. There's still some people that aren't going to like it. So you kind of have to get used to rejection as a writer. You're putting yourself out there a lot by writing stories and showing them to others. So rejection is part of it. It's okay to feel bad. But don't focus on it. So if you're focusing on bad reviews, don't do that at all. Just ignore them. Don't read them. If you're getting rejected by editors or agents that you're submitting your manuscript to, then you do want to pay attention to that. You want to see, like, what is it that they're saying? Is there something in common that they are agreeing with? Is there something you need to fix? Is there something that you can change? Because your goal is not to feel bad. Your goal is to learn and to grow as a writer. So, rejection can hurt, and it can make us feel bad, like not writing. Just to learn how to get past it. Okay, another thing. So I've got 12 things. I'm not on number 11 here. The next thing, though, that can slow us down, get in the way, derail our writing, is just life in general. Things happen all the time, right? Life just doesn't slow down and let us write a book. Why not, right? Why can't things just stop and let us write? It would be wonderful, but it doesn't happen. Things keep going, and we have to keep going with it, right? I happen to have had like the craziest year. Honestly, 2022 has been insane. All kinds of stuff. Deaths in my family, just, my puppy, one of my dogs, passed away, all kinds of family drama, all kinds of personal, issues and stuff. But things go on. You have to keep going. So you can't allow life to stop you. You have to say, okay, well, I'm going to still make these videos. I am still going to find time to write my blogs. I'm still going to work on my story. I'm still going to do these things, even though it's been a crappy year, even though things are challenging and things are happening. I'm going to continue to work and keep going, right? Because you don't want life to derail you. You don't want it to stop you from following your dreams. So sometimes life can, though, right? And sometimes you have no choice. Like sometimes you have to stop for a little while. You have to slow down because you have to deal with whatever the issue is. But deal with it. Take care of it. Take some time if you need to, and then come back. Come back to your writing, and remember, it's still there waiting for you, okay? Even though life is happening, it's still there, so don't let it stop you forever. Just take the time that you need to recover, heal, whatever it is you need to do, and then come back to your writing. Okay, and the last thing, number 12, is promotion. So can promotion derail your writing? Yes, it can. So every time I finish a book and it's published, it definitely derails my writing as far as that I'm not ready or able to start a next story. It's not like I write the end, close the book, and I'm finished, and I can start a new story and say, oh, thank God that one's done. I feel good. I accomplished it. I'm ready to start my next story. Like, it doesn't happen like that. I mean, the ideas percolate in my brain, and I start thinking about what my next story is going to be, but I can't start it immediately. Why? Because of promotion. I need to do something for this book that I just wrote. So promotion does steal some of your time and take some of your time. And so you have to, kind of schedule that in. You have to have that social media time. You have to have the, whatever it is that you're going to be doing for promotion, whether it's book signing events, whether it's speaking engagements, whether it's just telling people online. It's still going to take some time. So the best thing that you can do is plan for it, right? So plan that you're going to spend 15 minutes online every day promoting your book. This plan that you're going to take this much time to maybe send a newsletter to readers. Plan that out so that it's there. It's scheduled into your time. It's a good problem to have. If you've written a whole book and you've published it and now you're ready to promote it, it's a great problem to have, but it is going to interfere with your writing a little bit. So know that you're probably not going to write the next book quite as quickly, because you not only are writing, but you're also promoting your last book, and you're writing your new book. So it is going to take a little bit of your time, steals a little bit of your time, and it's not, and you don't get away with it by saying, well, I'm going to publish with a traditional publisher and they're going to take care of all of it. It doesn't happen that way. I wish it did, but no, the promotion still falls on you. You still have to do a lot of it yourself, whether you're self-publishing or whether you're traditionally publishing. A lot of it comes back to you, and you have to do it. So it's going to slow down your writing a little bit. Just understand that, and don't let it take too much of your time, but do plan some promotion time and some time for your writing as well. Okay, so that's a lot of stuff that can derail our writing. But the good thing is that, most of the time these things don't happen, and we have complete control over most of them. Okay, so we all of these things can have an impact on our writing, but it's up to us. We work at home, right? We're working. We have our control over our writing and our time and our business. It's our writing business. So we have to be the ones that are strong enough to say, what, I'm not going to get distracted by any of these things. I'm not going to let any of these things slow me down too much, because my writing is important. So just be aware that there are distractions out there. Don't let it stress you out. And when you do get distracted, or life distracts you, or other things from the outside come in, almost like an attack, right? Just push it all aside and say, okay, I'm going to deal with all these things. I'm going to go make my bed. I'm going to go take care of all these things in a little while, but just for this 1 hour, just for this short time, I'm going to focus on this story, and I'm going to get it finished, because then I'm going to feel much better. Then I can go and take care of all the problems that are out there and all the distractions, and I can enjoy a Netflix movie, and I can do all of those things that were trying to distract me. And what's really funny is, once you actually do the writing, all of these distractions don't seem quite as important anymore. Like, do I really want to do that laundry? Do I really need to fold that clothes? I thought it was really important an hour ago, but now that I'm done writing, it's not that important for me to fold those clothes. So it's something that mentally works on you as you're trying to get your writing done, right? It is that distraction. It is that sort of resistance to writing that causes all these things that you thought were important to come and suddenly become massively important. Once you're done your you're finished with your writing, you'll realize that, yeah, well, okay, maybe they weren't really necessary, and they weren't as important. But if they are, take care of them once you're done with your writing. All right, I hope that this helped you. I hope that it inspires you not to let distractions and resistance get to you, and that you are able to focus on your writing. Please share this video and hit the like button, and come back next Friday for my next writing tip. Bye-bye.